Hey YouTube, this is Logan Trimble again, and in this video I'm going to bring you a little first impressions and what I thought of the reboot of Are You Afraid of the Dark on Nickelodeon. I just got done watching the episode, and I can honestly say that this is definitely a worthy reboot of one of my all-time favorite childhood shows. I say that because it's a guilty pleasure. I know we talk about a lot about guilty pleasures lately, but people have already talked about what I like so much to death. I mean, as you probably know, I'm a 90s kid at heart. I mean, favorite shows growing up were mostly on Fox Kids and Kids WB. But Nickelodeon, I remember I watched Nickelodeon. I watched Cartoon Network too. But here's the thing about Nickelodeon. I go back and look at Nickelodeon. I mostly say to myself, I used to watch that when it comes to these shows. But Are You Afraid of the Dark is a show that has been a staple of my Nickelodeon phase. So what we have here in the reboot is a modern day interpretation. It's a reimagining of the Midnight Society. But the thing that's different about this reboot is that while there is a story being told and there's other cast members acting out, the real focus is on the Midnight Society. And that's what helps distinguish this version of Are You Afraid of the Dark so far. Because in the original show, we didn't get much backstory or much of anything with the Midnight Society. Okay, we don't. I don't recall seeing the Midnight Society in their own homes, whether it was Generation One or Generation Two. And no, I'm not talking about the generation that founded the Midnight Society in the early 20th century. Sometime, you're going to have to be a little forgiving for me because I'm not up on all the "Are You Afraid of the Dark" lore, despite the fact that it's one of my all-time favorite Nickelodeon shows. This and Kenan and Kel are my only guilty pleasures for my Nickelodeon phase. Some might say Good Burger would be too. In a way, Good Burger is, but I don't own it. I watched it recently. Yeah, it's really not all that funny. It just takes me back. And that's the thing about Are You Afraid of the Dark? It takes me back too. But yeah, like the show All That, the show Are You Afraid of the Dark, it was hit or miss. If anybody's gone back and watched the older episodes, you will realize that there are some child stars in certain episodes that didn't go anywhere, most of which you don't care to remember their names. But like in one episode in particular, there was Hayden Christensen. Yeah, that Hayden Christensen. I think it was in the episode Tale of Bigfoot Ridge, which isn't even about Bigfoot. But the point is, he wasn't good there. He wasn't good in Star Wars. But yeah, that's how the show was hit or miss. Was with the child stars that they had at the time. And yeah, most of the time they would get a good child star, or at least a decent child actor. So, how did these child actors in this reimagining work? Well, I don't know any of their names. I'm probably not going to remember any of their names, but these kids do a good job. The casting here is actually pretty decent, whether it's for the Midnight Society or the story that's being told by the main character Rachel. So, yeah, the casting's all around good. And of course, Are You Afraid of the Dark follows the tradition of the original series by having weird looking adults play the parts of the scary people, whether it were the monsters or just adults playing, like, witches and all that. That's how it was with Are You Afraid of the Dark. Yeah, it's common practice in Hollywood where we see good looking people take the lead roles and ugly people take the antagonistic roles. Come on, we see it in DC all the time. We know it's there, but we love it. Like DC animated shows, we see it there. It's a common staple of Hollywood. Sadly, it is. But yeah, I gotta say, first impressions with this reboot for episode one, I'm I'm pretty impressed. This is definitely a worthy reimagining and a great modern interpretation for kids that didn't grow up with the show. As an adult, without your nostalgia goggles on, you're going to find it campy. But that's the thing. Are You Afraid of the Dark was a campy show. It really was. So I'm looking forward to the next episode. It's a great nostalgic trip back in time while still being modern, instead of having to go back and watch the, the older episodes, being all like, yeah, that's dated. Like, there's an episode about virtual pets, which I know of, but I never saw. But it's like, yeah, that's dated. But if they do decide to take this show and make it last for actually a season instead of just for this month of October here in 2019, then I'm sure they would come up with more ideas. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of Nickelodeon anymore, but I heard that Brian Robbins got promoted to president of Nickelodeon. And yeah, he's bringing back the old shows like All That, which I'm not going to review that show. Okay? I mean, I take what memories I can remember from the show of All That and just enjoy them where they were because, let's face it, this show was hit or miss. And Nickelodeon shows don't age well. They don't. However, this was a nice treat for the month of October. For me, at least. I mean, if you're going to watch it without any nostalgia goggles on, you're not going to find it that entertaining. But again, it was campy, but Are You Afraid of the Dark is a series that's never been as campy as the Adam West Batman, or a lot of other campier shows out there from yesteryear. So, all in all, this was a nice treat. I'm looking forward to the next episode. And I figured that I'll make another video when this limited series, has concluded. Yeah, it's being written off like a limited series for a comic book or something. That's not necessarily bad. But hopefully they get the writers to stay on and make this a full season. But yeah, I mean, this is a nice little trip back in time while still being new and definitely more modern. I mean, come on, there's cell phones here. I mean, yeah, there's a school setting. These are middle school age characters. So yeah, there's taking pictures with cell phones, like Rachel's sketch of Mr. Top Hat. And yeah, the Carnival of Doom may not be the best name, but hey, I've definitely seen and heard worse. I mean, the horror genre is really hard to get right, and I know this show's not going to be as scary as, say, The Exorcist or anything like that. Are You Afraid of the Dark? It never was. So yeah, all in all, this is a worthy addition to the Nickelodeon shows of the modern era. I mean, I'm glad that kids of today are seeing what I had as a kid grow up in the 90s with Nickelodeon. Because let's face it, when we got older, Nickelodeon shows didn't entertain us anymore, especially the animated shows. I mean, I can't watch those anymore. They're way too bonkers for me. I mean, this is why they tell you not to look back. But yeah, I mean, I understand nostalgia. I know what it's like to be nostalgic. So yeah, it makes sense for me why my guilty pleasures with Nickelodeon are only two live action shows, Kenan and Kel and Are You Afraid of the Dark. So yeah, in conclusion, by judging it from Nickelodeon standards and Are You Afraid of the Dark standards, this is a worthy addition to the franchise. And yeah, during the opening credits, they give credit where it's due to the original creators of Are You Afraid of the Dark, such as DJ McHale. And yeah, they modernized the theme music. I mean, if anything, this is just a love letter to the original show. So far, it is. That's all it is. You got to take it as a love letter set in the modern era. And again, their idea of bringing something new to this old idea is focusing on the Midnight Society more than the story being told. And that's fine. That's fine. I mean, we never really got that with the Midnight Society. I mean, there was an episode where Gary and his brother in the original series are in a magic shop. I think their father owned it or something. But really, that's all we got with exploration of those kids. I mean, whenever a new cast member got added on back in those days, they would have cop out writing saying that they moved away, either because that child star got a different role, a different job, maybe something better, or they just quit acting altogether. So, yeah, exploring who the Midnight Society is and why they do what they do, this is what makes this interpretation of Are You Afraid of the Dark original. So, yeah, this is what you know with something new. If you are a fan of Are You Afraid of the Dark and you got nothing else better to do and you want to watch this, I don't blame you. But if you're somebody who is cynical and doesn't like to look back, is not nostalgic for Are You Afraid of the Dark, then yeah, you got to stay away. So yeah, overall, this is a love letter with a new take on its source material by modernizing it. And again, they modernize it in the show with having cell phones, and the writer's way of handling the writing in the modern era is focusing on the Midnight Society. I'm looking forward to how they explore who the Midnight Society kids are more, because again, we never got that. But I think I beat a dead horse enough. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the next episode. I mean, it's the month of October, and I like to have a little nostalgic treat that's also for the modern era. But yeah, I've been talking about a lot of guilty pleasures a lot recently when it comes to my movies. But trust me, I've seen bad movies that I really hate. And yeah, I will talk about movies that I absolutely hate, as well as films that I hate but everybody else loves. So yeah, I got nothing else to say here. That's all I got to say for this interpretation. So, in the meantime, YouTube, I'll catch you later. Bye.